Lucky the dog waited for long years. His patience was unwavering, his eyes always fixed on the road as if expecting someone. His loyalty never wavered, even in the face of uncertainty. The small town of Westmont had witnessed it all, the dog that never gave up. And one day, when a car finally stopped in front of that old house, the town's heart would break. The morning fog had barely lifted when Lucky first appeared. No one knew exactly where he came from, but there he was, a golden retriever with soulful eyes and a coat that had once gleamed, now weathered by time. Every day, he sat by the abandoned house, looking down the street with an expression that seemed to transcend time itself. Neighbors began noticing him. Some thought he was just lost and would soon be picked up by his family, but weeks passed, and he remained in the same spot, unwavering. As the days stretched into months, the town grew concerned. An elderly woman, Miss Martha, took to feeding Lucky, hoping he would move on. But Lucky wasn't interested in leaving. This was his place, his promise to keep. No one could convince him to leave, not even a collar or the offer of a new home. He sat there, eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting. His story became the talk of Westmont. Some children would stop to watch him, and adults speculated about the fate of his former family. Had they left him? Or had something worse happened? But Lucky, oblivious to their concerns, remained still, ever hopeful. His loyalty touched the hearts of everyone who saw him, but no one could understand why he waited so patiently. Then, one day, a curious 7-year-old girl named Lucy noticed Lucky for the first time. Every day, she would pass by the house on her way to school. At first, she just observed from a distance, intrigued by the silent dog. Her mother told her the story about Lucky's lost family. But Lucy wasn't satisfied with just hearing stories. She wanted to meet the dog, to understand why he kept waiting. One Saturday morning, armed with a small bag of treats, Lucy approached Lucky. She sat on the sidewalk a few feet away, her gaze fixed on him. At first, Lucky eyed her cautiously, but after a moment, he took a few steps toward her and accepted the treat. Lucy smiled brightly, talking to him gently about her school, her friends, and her love for dogs. Slowly, Lucky's trust in her began to grow. Over the following weeks, Lucy visited Lucky every day after school, bringing him snacks, toys, and even blankets to keep him comfortable. Though Lucky rarely played with the toys, he appreciated her company. One day, as Lucy sat beside him, he suddenly got up and walked toward the abandoned house. He nudged the door open with his nose and looked back at Lucy as if inviting her to follow. Lucy, intrigued and excited, stepped inside. Inside the house, time had stopped. Dust covered the furniture, and the smell of abandonment lingered in the air. Lucky walked to a corner where a toy box was hidden. With a soft paw, he pulled out an old rubber bone, faintly marked with his name. Lucy's heart sank. She then noticed a small stack of black and white photos in the box. They were pictures of a happy family, Lucky with a couple and a small child, probably Lucy's age. The dog had once been part of a family that loved him deeply. Lucy realized then that Lucky had been waiting for his family all these years. She whispered softly, "That was your family, wasn't it, Lucky?" The dog nuzzled the photo, confirming that these people had meant the world to him. Lucy's heart ached, but she knew she had to help. She was determined to find out what had happened to Lucky's family. To give him the closure he deserved, Lucy began asking around town, showing the old photos to the neighbors. An elderly resident, Miss Martha, remembered the Johnson family. They had been kind-hearted people with a charming little boy. But a few years ago, they had suddenly left. Miss Martha thought it was due to an accident, but no one knew the full details. Lucy's heart sank when she heard the word accident. The pieces were starting to fall into place. With her parents' help, Lucy visited the local library to search for any articles about the family. She found a small report about a severe car accident involving the Johnson family, but no further information was provided about their whereabouts. Determined, Lucy continued her investigation. She posted flyers and shared Lucky's story online, hoping to find someone who knew more about the family. Her persistence paid off when a neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, remembered a distant relative of the Johnsons. Lucy, her parents, and a few neighbors set off to find him. When they arrived in a nearby town, Mr. Blake, the relative, was surprised to see Lucky. He explained that after the accident, the Johnsons had struggled and eventually moved far away, believing that Lucky had run off during the chaos. But Lucky had stayed, waiting for them to return. Lucy's heart filled with hope. The Johnsons were still out there, and they would be reunited with Lucky. With the help of Mr. Blake, Lucy wrote a heartfelt letter and shared it far and wide. The whole town rallied behind her, and soon, the story spread, touching the hearts of many. One rainy afternoon, the phone rang at Lucy's house. Her mother answered, and after a brief conversation, she covered her mouth in shock. The Johnson family had been located. They were coming to get Lucky. The next day, as the car pulled up in front of the house, Lucky's tail wagged, and his eyes brightened. He recognized the familiar voice of his former owner and leaped into her arms. The reunion was emotional, with tears flowing freely. Lucky's loyalty had been rewarded. Lucy watched the reunion, her heart full of emotion. She had made it happen. Lucky had waited for years, but now, he was back where he belonged. As the Johnsons drove away with Lucky, the whole town watched, and Lucy knew she had done the right thing. Though she would miss him, she knew he was happy and finally home. And so, E's story became a legend in Westmont. His loyalty and love touched the hearts of everyone who heard it, and the plaque in front of his former home reminded everyone that true love never gives up.